Good morning. Oh, it was a bit croaky. 'Tis me. So this is the my second pop at talking about doing love notes spoken. I have an email list where I write my daily downloads, for want of a better name, and recently I had the thought to see if I could explore speaking about them rather than just writing them. So here I am. And I have a lovely gentleman who uploads these onto YouTube, so these are being captured on YouTube. So, like I said earlier last week, because we're on Monday, aren't we? How these writings come, they come with the sort of a first phrase, and then from there my fingers just sort of like create this writing. So, and I've always wanted to speak publicly, and this is my practice. And so today I thought about, my first one was about thoughts and feelings and how I see them as like the thoughts, especially as being things that are floating around and we just capture them. And I came across that concept on a shamanic menopause retreat some moons ago now, which was quite profound with Sweat Lodge and all that sort of thing. Anyway, I digress. Today's is about processing thoughts and feelings. And, when I was young, the way that I processed my feelings was very out. Just that I would, if I felt angry and I had no real concept of what was going on for me. I just was in a very programmed way of living. And I was very, very sort of out, noisy, violent, unconsidered. This sounds like I'm having a judgment of myself, and I'm not, because that was in the past, and now that I am older and I'm an elder, I can sort of look back on that version of me with compassion and understanding and a sense of love for that person that I was back then. So these feelings that would come, I would act in the moment unconsciously. I was living in the moment, but it didn't feel a very healthy way of living. I was acting out, as it's been called. So these feelings would arise in me and I would act out on them, on other people, on animals, on myself. There was a lot of anger. And recently, not too long ago, I came to a point in my life where my container of, I've skipped a bit there. Let me peg back. So once I learnt that this was violent behaviour, and that has been a sort of incremental getting on the wagon, falling off the wagon, like falling back into old patterns. I've done that over and over again, trying to change my behaviour. And exploring along the way. And so then what I did, I'd been all this out person. Then I became a suppression and in person. I'm sure I suppressed a little bit when I was younger, and yet it feels like the largest part of me was expressing, but what I would now call unhealthily expressing, shouting, hitting, just being, my energy was just like, I wasn't inside myself, I was mostly outside of myself, just acting out. Anyway, then I went into this suppression because I thought, well, I don't like doing myself like that. It doesn't seem to work. I hurt a lot of people, I hurt myself. So the next thing that I explored unconsciously was suppression. So I bottled it all in. And I, at the same time, because I had no tools in my toolkit, I would not have any boundaries. I would not stop people from saying or being unkind to me. You know, it was like I could take it. And so all this hurt came at me, and I had nothing in the tin to sort of to deal with that effectively. And I just piled more and more hurt and pain inside myself. And now as I'm talking about it, I can see that that enabled me then to be so full. Absolutely, my container of feeling was so full that one day the dam broke. And at this point, I had enough about me to know that I couldn't hurt other people, nor could I hurt myself with this emotional explosion. And so somehow I learned how to process them, and it was embarrassing at first, I have to say. The retreats, the spaces that I went to, there were spaces where I could start to learn. And I don't remember too many people. I remember people holding me in that explore, and I don't remember, and I'm truly grateful that they didn't try to get me to do it in a certain way. So many women, circles and events that I went to, that there was a corner for me, there was a space for me, in a safe-ish, I didn't feel safe, but this thing was like coming out, all this stuff. And I was in these containers where there was enough solidity, enough people who were grounded and solid and knew the ropes, their ropes, and were watching me find my own. Gosh, that makes me feel emotional. There were some hiccups along the way, of course there were. And yet the majority of the women, and I can think of them off the top of my head, that were just there and created this space for me to... I remember one in particular, and I don't remember the women of this event, where all of a sudden somebody dragged out a human-size punch bag, you know, a thing that boxers use, very heavy, and it took two of them to hold it. Well, there was three holding it by the time I got to it. And there's been times when my body has known what to do. It has gone, it has dragged me, it has pushed me, it has lifted me towards something where it knew that it could release itself. You know, and yes, earlier in my first session I talked about how these things are like visitors. So it was like there was a queue of feelings and thoughts attached that were just dying to get out of my body. I'd collected them all and kept them all, which isn't what we're supposed to do, not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to feel it, let it pass, feel it, let it pass, receive, let go, receive, just like the breath. And yet with all this suppression, I'd created a bit of a dam. You know, there was so many logs in the way, nothing could get through. So back to this punch bag and these two women, and there's about a circle, about 15 other women in this circle. And the words came, who wants to have a go with this? Well, my body was straight up. And I said, I do. And boy, the rage was just so there. And I had these voices, thoughts. One was saying, yeah, this is great. We can get out of here. We can release. We can... And there was this other part, what I would call my spiritual bypass part. This is not the right thing to do, Sunday. This is not what you should be doing. This is violence. This is horrific. This is not good. And I'm glad to say that the part of me that was saying, come on Sunday, beat the hell out of this thing. Let's be having it all out. That part was the bigger voice in me that day. And it shocked me. It really did shock me, the amount of stuff, because it wasn't just my hitting this thing, it was me naming people that I was carrying grudges, resentments, hurt. Those names were getting spoken. And this was hard. This was really hard because it felt disloyal. It felt like I was betraying trust. And like I say, there was this voice that was saying it wasn't good, and I had all these sort of things playing out. It's funny that I know it looks like this is the right side, but it's funny how I consider this to be the left side, the feminine side perhaps, that is sort of trying to close me down, whereas the masculine side is saying, just go for it. That's the sides of me that I feel it. And so that was a massive, massive first step. And I used to get these headaches, and I would then be ill and vomit and be sick, and it was quite a dramatic, it's like me being dramatic, tempestuous time. And slowly over the years, I've learned how to manage my feelings, not in the moment expressive whatever's coming up way on people in that moment, because that was my tendency, and nor this suppression of my feelings either, and sort of imploding in myself. And I learned my own emotional release techniques, and I can bring them on at will if I feel a bit sort of like tight and a bit full. You know how you can feel the tears bubbling, and sometimes it's anger that's underneath those tears, and anger, is like a crossed boundary, or where something isn't right for me, that raises the anger. So my own particular processing, I see these feelings as just visitors, and something that somehow comes into me, and how it now needs a gateway out. It's not to be kept, but neither has it to be dumped on somebody else, which was my tendency. And maybe I'll talk about forgiveness at another time, and the path to forgiveness was all weaved into this story of my forgiveness and forgiveness in general. But I like to think of these feelings as like little, a bit like my thoughts, they're like little beings that come and visit. And it occurred to me once, I have a particular position that I get into when I'm in upset, which I really like. It's like on my forearms on the floor, and I'm kneeling up, so I'm sort of in that sort of position. And it feels really good because it feels like my lungs are able to come out of the air can come out of my voice. I can speak and make noises and stuff like that. It feels like it's an easy, slippy slope out, because this is where it seems to come out mostly. My feelings seem to come out of my mouth. And I've never really thought about that, really. Where do my feelings exit my body? I'm sure it's all over, and yet it feels like... And I devised this because I didn't really like the idea of putting my negative energy into the atmosphere. But then I realised that Mother Nature hoovers it all up anyway and puts it back into the earth. And this is the concept, the story that I've told myself, which really feels to work. That nothing's wasted. My emotional release is valuable. It's not wasted. So I imagine it coming out of me and going down this slide, a bit like, shiny silver, as there used to be, playground slide, and into the earth, where it gets reconfigured, composted down, reutilised, a bit like a dead body would be. My dead feelings are now down there to be born again. You know, it's it's just my way of thinking of it, making sense of it. But once I was doing this processing, and I was making all this noise, and it came to me that there was a backlog. You know, there was this rush at the gates. It was almost like they were saying, the gates are open, she's at it again, come on, let's get the hell out of here. And it was like they were all racing to get out of me, this tsunami of feelings that had been bottled in for years, perhaps, you know, with this process of squashing it all in instead of being overt with it all and throwing it around on everybody and everything. So it was like they were all queuing up to get out. Let's get out of here. We've been in here long enough. And there's some old stale ones that were like walking out with walking sticks. Praise the Lord, I'm out of here. Ah, dear me. So much fun thinking about it like this too. You know, it makes it light. It brings a, you know, it brings a sense of childlike. You know, we don't get modelled this, do we? We don't see our parents just a minute, young person, I'm just off to process my feelings. You can watch if you like. Wouldn't that be great? Oh my God, my mum and dad are having a meltdown. And for once, it's not on me. You know, it would be so wonderful for us to be able to get to that place. You know, it's been wonderful for me to get to that place. To be aware of how I'm processing my feelings, you know, and not closing off to them, not trying to shove them away or pretend they don't exist or pretend I don't have them, and stand solid in my emotional capacity, my emotional mastery of the art of dancing with my thoughts and feelings. So there we have it, my love notes spoken for today. I've noticed that they're a bit longer than my writings. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Bye.